Hello Giants fans, welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. We got 2 new subscribers today, so I just wanted to say welcome aboard and thank you so much for being a part of Giants Baseball 101. The Giants lost to the Reds 3-2 today, so after taking 2 games of the 4-game series against the Reds, they lost game 3, and now this series, they're up in it 2-1. Stripling started for the Giants today and pitched 6 innings, allowing 3 runs. And honestly, I think compared to some of what we've seen from Stripling this year, it really has been encouraging that he went 6 innings today and 3 runs. I mean that isn't really a great start, but I think that it is progress for Stripling, and particularly now as the Giants do appear to be stretching him a bit. It's clear the Giants' intention for Stripling. He's not viewed as just an opener going forward, but the Giants very clearly are trying to stretch him out and bring him in as an everyday piece in the rotation. And there are just some obvious reasons for that. The fact being, for one thing, that the bullpen just kind of gets tired out when you have to stretch them to their limits every day. An improved bullpen has just been a key to the Giants' success this year, and that being the case, they do have a responsibility to make sure the bullpen stays fresh, and I think that was one of their intentions in trying to bring back Stripling. He came off the injured list on, I believe it was the 25th of June. I could be wrong a little bit about the day, but I think that's when he came off of the injured list. But the Giants are trying to... He served as an opener, I think, for like a couple games. I mean, he went 3 innings in a couple, but now the Giants are trying to bring him back not just as a multi-inning reliever and an opener, but they seem to want him to work as a more traditional starter. And of late, he has been, including today, he has been fairly decent. So I think that could be a realistic option. And just extensively this year, the Giants have just used their bullpen along with a combination of organizational starters to make things happen. And honestly, well, this was because they did not get the depth out of their starting rotations they had hoped. And honestly, I think that for the resources they had, they did the best job that really could have been expected, trying to work around the lack of quality depth they had to their rotation. Actually, I think if you're thinking back to 2019, I just think the classic example of a starter staying in the rotation when he shouldn't have, it was Tyler Beede. And I think it really, in 2019, it played a big role in their falling out of wild card contention, just the fact that he continued. He was struggling, he was slumping, he was giving up home runs, and yet he continued to start every 5 days. And I don't think that was a prudent idea on the part of the Giants, because that was a point where they just needed to replace him. And obviously that situation's a little different because Beede had options, and he could quickly and easily have been sent to the minors. I mean, this year, though, I think the Giants have just been really creative in trying to deal with some issues that they knew they had to deal with. And as far as the resources that they had, they did do a pretty good job as far as can be expected in working around starters that really shouldn't, they saw clearly really shouldn't be pitching 5 or 6 innings every 5 days. And sometimes it was just putting that starter behind an opener. Other times it was just using a combination of multi-inning pitchers in a particular game. Now, though, that strategy is just it. I think that it is in their best interest to try to go with a more full rotation down the stretch. And I have said this before, and what I really mean by that is trade for somebody, or maybe even groom the starters in the organization a bit. And I'm not just talking about Kyle Harrison, but also Keaton Wynn was decent when he was up for the Giants. And I mean, I know at least one time he went 6 innings. He is definitely, I'm sure he's working as a starter in AAA. So I don't think he should lose that ability when he comes up, like he's just about certain to, when he comes up again at some point this year. But I think Keaton Wynn should maybe be viewed as a guy who should get a more extensive look in the rotation, particularly at a time when the Giants are trying to fill it up with traditional starters. But it is interesting that the way they want Ross Stripling to have a second chance at being an everyday starter. And although his performance was not great today, I think it was encouraging compared to some of the things that we've seen. And I think there are just some things that he needs to work on, and if he can get them together, maybe he can be an everyday starter for the Giants and put up an at least solid performance. So it was only 3 runs that scored off Stripling, but the bats were kind of cold today. In the 5th inning, down 3-0, the Giants got 1 run on Jock Peterson, grounding into a double play. And then in the 7th, Blake Sabol hit a solo home run to cut the deficit to 3-2. So it's one of those games that the Giants have been known to come back in situations like that previously this year, but the comeback, it was just halted today. They had a few innings at the end of the game to score that 1 run and tie it, but today they didn't do it. So they've lost this game to the Reds here. They can still take the series with a win tomorrow. That's what they got to do. The streak that this loss snaps is, they beat the Rockies twice before the All-Star break, so there's that in the 3-game sweep against the Pirates, and then the 2 wins in Cincinnati. So that would add up to 7 straight wins. That's the streak they were on before it was broken with their loss today. So they just have to come back and win tomorrow, take this series against the Reds. They are in some pretty close competition with the Dodgers, and I really did not expect that the Dodgers would go down without a fight, nor do I now. It's going to be I know that things seem probably so discouraging right now, since it just seems so hard for the Giants to make any headway on the Dodgers in first place. But it is, I think that some of this is really just what we got to be prepared for. It is really going to be a head-to-head fight between the two teams, and the Giants just have to be on their best game and not fall into any more of those slumps. And if they are really able to push at it, then they might just be able to fight their way ahead of the Dodgers. Now, before closing out for today, I did want to make one last comment just in regard to the game today. After Stripling was removed from pitching, Ryan Walker came in and pitched 2 scoreless innings. And I wonder if we've kind of been taking for granted what we've seen from Walker. I've mentioned just the improvement of the Giants' bullpen in late inning situations. But, just looking at Ryan Walker, and on Monday, he pitched a scoreless bottom of the 8th when it was tied. Excuse me, that would have been on Tuesday when they were making up the game. Excuse me. So it was the bottom of the 8th with the score tied 2-2. Ryan Walker pitched a scoreless inning. I think what he's showing is that he is at the point, I think, of being able to be trusted in late inning situations, and really the more relievers the Giants have who are capable of handling those high pressure situations, the better. As of right now, they got Taylor Rogers, Tyler Rogers, Camilo Doval, and Scott Alexander. But as far as the bullpen, I am really impressed with what I'm seeing from Ryan Walker, and that may be another reason why it would be best for the Giants if they did not continue to have to use openers for games, because pitchers like Walker can be saved for the later innings. But putting all that aside, I think that the Giants really do have a good group, just a good pool of talent that can anchor the back end of the bullpen right now and help them to win these late inning games. So just to sum everything up, today it wasn't a good day for the Giants, and they just, the bats were kind of cold, and it was not what we'd hoped. So they lose this game, but I think that this is just, there's every reason to think that it's just an outlier. Remember, they had won 7 games up to this point, and they just need to come back tomorrow and get hot again and work their way up to the top of the division. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you haven't. Also, please leave your questions and comments. You know where to do it. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.